Christian White, the One Day at a Time Dad, back with another Listening to Learn. I have the pleasure. Anytime I get to interview the bigger homies, it's a pleasure. I'm here with T. And, full disclosure, we did an interview before. My phone was totally wrecked and I lost it. So thankfully, he was kind enough to let me be back in his presence again. Let me ask you, first of all, how old are you?
I just turned 56.
And how did you grow up? What was life like for you?
I was forced to grow up real fast. I'm the oldest in my family. I'm originally from upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
And, my mother was going through a rough time. It was 4 of us. And so I was literally putting food on my mother's table at 10 years old.
How?
By any means necessary. Whatever it took.
So at what age did you realize she was struggling so hard to the point that you needed to step in, even at that age?
When there ain't no food on the table, bro. When we're, I'm sure a lot of people, especially from the hood, can identify when we ain't even making syrup sandwiches. We ain't making ketchup sandwiches. We ain't making sugar sandwiches. We gotta eat. She couldn't do that. I know it's time for me to step up. Fortunately, there was places and things available that I had to take advantage of.
Yeah. Obviously, I know where you're coming. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask, time goes on, you're getting older. What does coming into teenage years look like? Are you still having to put food on the table? Has anything changed at that point?
Well, circumstances changed, and she got back on her feet, so to speak. And see, for me, being the oldest, I felt, and I am, or was, the primary teacher for my brothers and sisters. My brothers and sister. And so, as time progressed, now we move from one city to another. The dynamic changes. It changes in that Rochester was a hustler's town.
Yes.
I grew up around a lot of hustlers, pimps, hoes, the whole 9 yards. And so that was my reality for the first 13, 14, maybe 15 years. I forget exactly. Then we go to Syracuse. Syracuse is very territorial, and this is where the gangbanging scenario comes into
Mm-hmm.
play. For me, it wasn't a gang. These are the dudes that's my neighborhood. So, but at the same time, it was an issue because you had to pick a side. And I always equated to...
What happens if you don't pick a side?
Like I was about to say, you have to. You only have 2 choices. You either a punk and you stay in the house, or you come outside and play with the big boys. And so to help my brothers and my sister avoid that, I was out in the streets early. I was out there because if I'm out there, they don't have to be. They're safe now because that's Tone's little brother, Tone's little sister, or whatever. But they know them as family.
So a way to protect your family was to make a name for yourself to deflect any negative attention going their way.
I wasn't even looking at it as making a name,
Mm-hmm.
as so much as just, this is what I needed to do to keep them safe. I knew that. You know what I'm saying? That was my job. That was my role as far as the big brother is concerned.
Well, so where's your father in all this?
I don't have a father. The dude that I know as my dad,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we talked about this before. I still have physical scars on my body from where this man beat me. This dude was one of them country bumpkin hooter ass dudes. And before we went through that period where I was forced to help provide for
Yes.
the family, they were going through it, and I caught the brunt end of it one day. This dude slammed me so hard, I swear to God, I was in the basement. And like I said, he kept hitting me he kept hitting me with that extension cord repeatedly to the point where I have a horseshoe. It shrunk obviously over the years, but I have a horseshoe shaped scar on my leg from where it was dug into my skin. So yeah, father, I don't know what that is. My mother was my father.
Are you a father?
Of course, yes. I am blessed to say that I have 5 children, 2 of which I lost. I lost a little girl to SIDS 28 years ago. And then I just lost my son Christmas Eve 2018.
Did your son have any children?
I am blessed to have a beautiful grandson, 10 years old. That's my heart from my son that I lost.
How would you describe yourself as a father? Temperament, ways you try to educate.
I try to be, sometimes it's wrong, but I try to be more friend than father. And I know part of that for me is my guilt of being locked up for so long. My guilt for being
I
locked
think
up for
every
so long.
dad that has served time, like while their child was in the world.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, at the same time, I've never been one of them preachy type of dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was there physically for them, I can count on one hand how many times I might have put my hands on them. I'd rather talk to my children. And this is something that I feel personally, that a lot of times parents, both mother and father, discount their children's intellect and intelligence. Because
100%.
like you hear it all the time. Oh, they're a baby. They don't understand. That's bullshit. They understand more than you giving them credit for.
Why you think when they're 50, they still remember that beating at 6 or 7?
You know what I mean? And so, like, we have to be mindful that our children are a lot more intuitive, a lot more intelligent than we sometimes give them credit for.
Absolutely.
And so I learned early, especially being incarcerated for so long, that first and foremost, learn how to have a dialogue with them and just keep it 100 with them. You know what I mean? I'm not saying teach them a whole bunch of dumb shit, but respect them in their intelligence and respect them enough to have a real conversation, age appropriate, and in accordance to whatever they're dealing with. You know what I mean? Because, okay, doing all of the time that I did.
Let me ask, how much time did you do?
I did 7 years from 92 to 99 with a 9-month furlough. I was out for 9 months, and then I did another 15 years after that. So 22 years with a 9-month furlough.
So the first sentence, you had no children, or did you?
No, I did have children. Yes.
Okay.
I did that when I did the first 7 years. My daughter had just passed away. I was already in active addiction, but there is no but. I was in active addiction, and honestly, even though I didn't learn a lot in those 7 years, as far as myself is concerned, those 7 years probably saved me from possibly not having this conversation, because I probably wouldn't have been here.
What? So with that, during the first sentence, what was your understanding of mental health? If an understanding.
Honestly, my understanding of mental health is better, but my approach to mental health has never changed, and that's just my stubbornness. And it's no disrespect to anybody else, but I look at it as a weakness. And you know, I understand that there's people you can talk to, and there's medications. I'm not a pillhead. I don't do medication, and I'm not looking for something to put me in a fog. I'd rather think through it and deal with whatever I'm facing consciously and level-headedly, with no influences, nothing, altering my state. I don't do that.
Have you always been that way?
Yes.
Okay. Nope, that makes total sense. What was it like doing time? The first bid and the second bid?
First bid, I was still very young-minded. Regardless to my age,
How old were you?
I think I was like 27, 28
Okay.
when I
Okay.
first did a state bid. I had done a couple county bids, but, looking at TV and listening to all of the hype and the bullshit that you hear in music and this, that, and the third, when I knew I was coming upstate, I'm eating the weights. I'm in the weight room every day getting ready for gladiator school.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm getting amped up. And so then when I get to Concord, I'm on the rah-rah. I want to be like, Mr. Convict. I'm Captain Convict.
Captain
you know what I mean?
Convict. Yep.
I want to know who all the rats is and the Skinners and this, that, and the third. And your older brother is like, yo.
Skinner's a rapist, by the way. Go ahead.
Sorry. My older brother pulled me to the side because I just came out of the chow hall and I'm amped up about, how y'all letting Skinners and snitches sit in the same table and this, that, and the third. Older head, I'm the only one out there on the noise. Everybody else is like, and he told me, he said, young brother, he said, it's not like that no more. He said, things have changed. He said, and I'm quoting him verbatim. He said, don't be the only one out in the middle of the street when the rest of these niggas are standing on the sidewalk.
Yo, I think, especially in the joint, a lot of dudes have riot about to set off.
Yes.
They rush the block. You turn around, you hear cell doors
Oh,
closing. You're like,
I got
what
another
the-
scenario. That's a whole nother story. They did my man dirty, and they was ripping the spot apart. This is my workout part of my dude. Yo, they ripping the spot, so I'm amped up, I'm ripping, and I'm rah. The COs didn't even have riot gear on, bro. They just came in regular uniforms, and all I heard behind me was dish, 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 dish. When I turned around, legit, there was 3 of us standing out there. 3. Everybody else locked in.
Out of
Before
how
they
many-
even said anything.
Out of how many in the
The whole block. The whole block in I think it was E2. Yo, the whole block locked in, except for 3 of us. And I'm like, I bugged out. I was calling people all kinds of crazy names and everything. But that's another story. But to go backwards, in that time, I had to learn how to ramp it down. But at the same time, I still wasn't working on myself. I wasn't working on my mindset. Without being conceited or fake, I've always been intelligent, but I hadn't always used my intelligence to benefit me. I learned how to scheme. I thought out, different ways to commit crime.
Yes.
But I didn't use the intelligence God had blessed me with for anything positive. But on the flip side, to add to, when I was forced to grow up real fast, I had to use my wits to survive.
Yes.
So this is what I knew. This is, what I mean? This was comfortable for me.
Absolutely.
It's like putting on your t-shirt every day. You know how to do that.
It's your normal.
But then, it took time and knowledge to learn how to tie a tie. And just
Quick question. So, the mind state you had in terms of providing for your family and the protective kind of feelings you had for them, and have for them, obviously. How many of your friends on the street and in prison had that same sort of mentality?
Friends is a word that I don't use lightly. I learned.
I use friends purposely because I want to know in terms of the people who you influence and they influence you directly in relationships.
Okay. Well, the friends that I have, I can still count on one hand. Maybe 2 if I stretch. You know what I'm saying? But
The street life is a lonely life, my friend. A lonely, lonely life.
And it's sad because honestly, it limits you in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
It limits you to a lot of experiences and a lot of different personalities.
You want to know what's so interesting? I used to tell this story where I was in Old Colony, and you know, when you first get to a new camp, you notice everything. Every door, every nook, every cranny, every mechanical door, anything.
You got to know your surroundings.
But as time goes on and you get into your routine, the places that you don't have access to, you tend to forget about. Now when I walk up that ramp, I don't look in HSU unless I have an appointment. I don't think to go into an IPS office because I just don't do it.
Yeah,
I don't
talk about
Yes, I don't think to go into the mechanical room because I don't have a key for it. So I forget that these places exist even within the world I live in.
Right.
And over the years, I started realizing how my mind was becoming more and more restricted because once I adapted to my routine, everything else didn't matter anymore.
That's funny. We were talking the other day, and I was explaining to you, like in that first 7, I was under the delusion of that I needed to, this was my self-checking. Like every year, 18 months, when the stress level was so high, I would start a fight just to go to the hole, just to decompress or to remove myself.
Yo, people don't understand. Yo, so my man Razor, we were talking about that Up the Max a long time ago. This was back when the Max first opened, and so this was like 99.
Okay.
Me, Razor, TG, and Triple R sat at the table, and we were talking one lunch, and we were talking about how some dudes in DDU will purposely flood their cells just so the COs can come in and beat them.
Yeah.
Just to switch it up.
Just
to be reminded that that you can
that
get
was their version of human contact.
That was their version of human contact.
I know dudes like that.
Yes. Now think of the upbringing and mind state that has to go into that for that to be your avenue to find somebody to give you attention.
To be that, and again, all due respect to them brothers that's in there, Sco, my dude, and the brothers that I'm probably sure that I know that I don't know their situation because I've been home for 5 years.
Shout out Roscoe, man.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out Fuquan. Yo, there's just so many dudes that are just
And so, like, to go to that place, to be so primal.
You know what? That's the word. Primal.
Yeah.
We never made it out of primal mode.
Nah, because the conditioning, the mindset is infectious.
Yes.
It is infectious. And what's the word I'm looking for? Institutionalization. Institutionalization is very real because when I got out after doing those 7 years, I was still in prison in my head because there would be days when I would say, oh, it's 11 o'clock, it's chow time. Oh, it's 1 o'clock, I'll be in the gym or in the yard kicking it with so-and-so. And so I brought prison home with me on a lot of levels. And
is that pretty, from your experience and dealing with other people, is that pretty normal?
it was evident because how many heads did I run into shortly after my return that had just got out? I'm talking literally, there was a couple of dudes that I know was only out 3 weeks,
Yeah.
4 weeks, and back in with a new case.
Yeah.
Not on a PV, a brand new case that they were fighting. And in 2000, in J3, bro, me, my Cody, Sco, Thiefy, my brother, I love you, man. So many other heads, you know what I mean? And this was a crazy, crazy block, bro. It was like, it's wild that we got along so well in that block. And now that we're having this conversation, it's scary that we got along so well in that block, being as disruptive as it could have been, as violent as it could have been.
I tend to look at it like I love being in higher security versus lower security. I always felt like the rules were known. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People don't realize most stuff in prison starts over a buster. It doesn't start with real dudes. Real dudes, when they say something squashed, that's the end of it. There's not like you're back in your cell wondering if he's still talking about you. No. That's what happens when like dudes who are not real bid. They tend to start trouble, start the rumors. Oh, did you know so-and-so just got it? It's like, dude, I just.
No, but see, that's the ones that 90% of them are scared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're hiding up under individuals that they know are more solid, whatever the case may be, men, basically. And then you got the other little dudes that they're just trying to find their niche or whatever the case may be, or it's just legitimate. Like I told my brother, I said, you know, there's certain types of individuals. I'm not claiming to be the toughest individual in the world. I'll stand up for mine every day. But at the same time, there's these other individuals that aren't built like that, but they want to talk like they
Want
built
to
like that.
talk the lingo.
They want to impress upon you that they're that guy or that they're this tough or whatever the case may be. And, you know, being from Lynn, you know, people be like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so's here. And I'm like, so? Who are they? If I don't know you, I really don't care. Because I'm not gonna let you get me caught up in your shit. You go outside just because you got, oh, this dude's from around the way and this dude's from around the way. So, you know what I mean? I'm gonna do what, no. This is not the friends and family plan. No. And like I explained to you before, when I came back, I made a conscious decision to turn my life around and to start addressing whatever it took for me to get back to my family, God willing, safely and sound. You know what I mean? No extra holes, no extra scars, whatever.
What did that process look like? How'd you come to make that decision?
Like I said, I mean, I'm literally like a week back in J3, sitting up on third tier, looking out my little...
So now you have the 15.
Yeah,
This
well,
is the...
no, I'm on 52A.
Oh,
I
got
haven't
it.
even been sentenced yet.
Got it, okay.
We're in 52A status, and like I said, I was a sneeze away from just giving up and just playing crazy. Can't do that. I got children. I have a responsibility. If I can make it out of there, then I gotta go home and do the right thing and show, you know what I mean, in some capacity, what a man and a father is supposed to look like and what he's supposed to do. And I can't do that unless I address myself first and foremost, because I have to change my behaviors, my thinking, and that whole pattern across the board.
I just want to point out, he said behaviors before the patterns in the mind, because the easiest thing to fix is the physical action. It's that mind that you got to put that tough work in.
Like I said, it's rewiring the computer.
Rewiring, absolutely.
Compartmentalization is a huge part of that, because old self, I keep him in the furthest corner to the left.
But he still exists.
Whenever I need him.
Yes.
Whenever I need him. But the person that I'm trying to be and the person that I strive to be every day, he took work. He took them 15 years to come into play and, actively seeking out the tools that I needed to be a different person.
And how'd you do that in prison?
Religion, music, the weight room, and programs.
What sort of programs were offered at that time?
The biggest program that was a benefit to me was AVP, Alternatives to Violence Program.
Yeah.
The alternative...
They have that at Plymouth Forestry too, right?
They have it. It's
Yeah.
all
Okay,
the
it
system.
is everywhere? Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
realize
the
that.
system. In actuality, ironically, when my son was in Middleton, one of the people that runs AVP was actually one of those facilitators in Middleton.
Middleton's...
Middleton County Jail.
Okay, and your son had to go there for a
Yeah,
reason?
he was there for a little while. But yes, and so I mean, AVP was one of the biggest tools and resources that helped me, one, learn how to communicate and have whatever a normal conversation is. And it helped open up, it helped open up my mind to thinking and looking at and processing different things differently. And it also helped me learn how to meditate and to just like get in tune with myself. And, you know, like I said, in the first 7, I was under the delusion, and there was still some times when I felt like I wanted to do it during that 15 years where I wanted to just start some dumb shit or just, you know, jump on somebody for no freaking reason just to go to the hole to get away because I didn't like my celly if he was a slob or whatever the case may be. But the light came on, and I had to remind myself that whether I'm in SMU, Special Management Unit, whether I'm in SMU or I'm out in general population, that box just expanded. You know what I mean? Just a little bit, but I'm still in the box. I ain't going no freaking way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The only thing that allows me is canteen. So I can make my little peanut butter and jelly when I'm done working out or whatever the case may be. So, you know, I had, again, rewired the computer to change my thought processes in the way I behave and interact with other people. And learning to maximize my time out of the cell.
Yes. Do the time. Absolutely. Absolutely. How'd you learn how to be a good dad? I'm never going to win the Father of the Year award, but one thing that I learned was, like we talked about the other day, I'm not one of them yellers. I don't yell. It takes me a lot to yell at my children. I got to be really, really pissed about something because I learned early the only way to hold their attention is to have a regular conversation at a normal tone of voice. Because, you know, you can only control what you can control. And for that 15, 20 minutes of pop over the phone, if you're yelling and screaming, how much do you think they really heard? They shut down. Just like your woman will shut down and hang up on your ass, your children will shut down too. Or they'll pass you off to the next child. Yep.
They'll be like, yeah, hold on, Raven's right here.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I never was that type of person with them. Anytime that I caught them on the phone, I was appreciative of because I knew I fucked up so bad. So bad. Come on. I was home for 9 months after doing 7 years. And then I got this screamer because of my dumbass choices. Yeah. And so, you know, for 22 years, they only know Dad. I only seen my children legit. Okay, let me put it to you like this. The first 7 years, my ex-wife, she was going through her addictive issues. My children were a product of DSS. I was fighting for visitation rights where social workers would bring my children up to see me.
This is all while in prison.
In prison.
Do a lot of fathers fight for their kids while they're in prison?
I don't honestly know everybody's specific situation, so I can't speak to that. I know that we all have access to that information. How many of us apply that? I don't know. I'm not going to guesstimate or disrespect anybody and say yes or no where that's concerned. That's all I can know. All I can do is address mine.
Yep, absolutely.
All I can do is address mine. I would hope and pray that brothers did, but I know that there are dudes that have children, but never talk about them. Never talk about them. You know what I mean? And so, like, anytime that I was blessed to have a conversation with my children, I tried to maximize that to the best of my ability, on something positive or something happy to keep them smiling or engaged in some capacity, because that 20 minutes that I might get or that 10 minutes that I might get with them, I might not talk to them again for another couple months.
I know.
I might not talk to them for a few months. So, you know, I can only do the best that I could do and maximize it to the best of my ability.
So you get out after all the screamer. What's the first things you do?
The funniest and the saddest part was trying to make up for lost time.
The impossibility. Yeah.
My daughter hit me in the head, and it was sad, but I needed to hear it. And like, you know, when I was in Boston Pre. No, I was in the halfway house, and I get those little weekend furloughs, and you know, I'm all up their ass every weekend, trying to hang out. They grown ass kids. They're not kids anymore. They're kids in my mind, but they are grown people, women and men now. And they got their own lives and their own things going on in their life. So, you know, the first couple of weeks, my daughters, they all entertained me. they played nice with that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But then at some point, I started to become annoying. And my daughter was like, Dad, you know what I mean? We love you, but we're not the kids that you know what I mean? We're not those kids anymore. We're grown. We love you, you know what I mean? But we got our own lives, basically. You gotta go find you a life. Go find you a girl. Go hang out with your woman.
Isn't it amazing how we can just be trapped in a moment?
It's like
I would see pictures of Christian. So I would get pictures maybe every few years or something like that. Once in a while, his mother sent them, and then if not, my uncle would. If he happened to see him at a function, he would take a few, whatever. And I literally, while Christian was 7 years old, all I had was a 4-year-old picture of him, 3-4 years old, I think it was. Even though I consciously knew that he was 7, I could not see him beyond 3.
Right. I was fortunate in that I always got updated pictures. You know what I'm saying?
Beautiful, yes.
I did get updated pictures of most of them.
Yep.
Not all, but the sad irony is I used to talk about a guy that I know, and I know his name, but I won't put his name out there. I know a guy when in the first 7 years I was down SECC. This brother's like my age now, about 55, 56 years old. He knew every hip hop song and every new record that came out on the radio. Me, I'm old school. I prefer R&B, but I respect and I listen to everything. But this brother, because of where he was at mentally, his mental progression stopped at around that time, and he could identify more with the young brothers than he could with an older individual. You know what I'm saying? And on the flip side, in my head, I knew that they weren't the same children that I left home, but at the same time, they were still my children. And I'm on this kumbaya shit thinking that we gonna all be one big happy family, and you know, my family's gonna revolve around me.
You thought you were stepping you thought you were stepping back in as the sun, and you were Pluto.
Yeah.
Not even considered a planet anymore. Like
this all eyes on me.
Yes.
And you know, so like I said, the sad reality was when my daughter hit me, I had to accept that. I had to eat it. It hurt initially, but just a couple of weeks ago.
Why did it hurt?
Because they wasn't all focused on me. They had their own lives. And so, like, we literally just had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, thank you. I needed to hear that because it helps in my growth process. It helps me as far as my reintegration into society.
Do you tell your kids you love them?
Every day. Every day. Every conversation. I don't care if they're 900, and I got 33, 31, and 28 with me right now. And so every conversation, I always acknowledge how much I love my babies.
Why do you feel that's important to do?
Because I didn't get a chance to say it enough when I wasn't there. Even though I could say it a million times in a letter, they didn't hear it. Even though I said it a couple hundred times in the 15 years, you know what I mean, over the phone, I wasn't there physically to say it. I couldn't kiss my son on the cheek. I know he gets uncomfortable when I do it, but I don't give a shit. I'm gonna do it. That's my baby. Even though he a big ass baby, it's still my baby. My daughter, same thing. And I've been blessed to have a good rapport as far as communicating with them, because I think part of the reason is because I wasn't that yellow, because I wasn't so vociferous when it comes to.
It sounds like from the start you were accepting of the fact that you made a wrong choice, and they knew that.
Listen, I fucked up in that I always had in my head, especially after this dude used to beat the shit out of me, that I would be a better father. And I didn't live up to that obligation, or the lie that I told myself. You see,
well, that lie turned into the truth later on down the line.
It did turn into the truth later on down the line, and I'm thankful for that. But understand, when I was in active addiction, I was lying not only to everybody else around me, I was lying to myself first and foremost, because I wasn't the man that I was supposed to have been. And I knew that. But when you're caught up in the middle of that tornado, you can't see shit. So, once I was taken or removed myself from the equation, now it opened up the door to more clarity. And so, again, like I always would advocate in alternatives to violence, because I became a facilitator and I've done many workshops in this area. And so, like, I would, first and foremost, if you lie to yourself, it ain't shit to lie to everybody else.
You want to know? So, funny you say that. So everybody typically asks me, how did I change? That's a very basic question that people tend to ask me. And I tell them I haven't changed at all. I just expend my energy differently. But the beginning of that process, even though I was aware of mental health and I was dealing with it, where the true epiphany started happening was when I stopped lying to myself. Okay, so let's say we're in prison, the line's drawn, if someone does, it's easy, because if someone does this, you do that. It's just very rote behavior. But what I realized is, let's say somebody said something, or I overheard a conversation about someone who was a great dad. And then I started, I couldn't figure out why my palms started getting sweaty, or my heart started beating, or I would tense up, or I would get angry or jealous, any of these feelings. But if something happened, the way that all that was validated was by the physical part of the fight. But later on, when you're by yourself and you got that time to think, I started realizing, like, damn, that affected me. I don't know how or why, but it did. Whereas before, I would blatantly convince myself, this is just a part of, chalk it up to the game, charge it to the game. This is just the way it is. And I realized that I wasn't living anything of what I really could be.
Right. And, again, knowing the blessing of being, having some type of intellect, and just acknowledging what's real. One of my brothers, stone cold workaholic. I mean, this dude, 9 o'clock at night is late night for him. This man's up at 5 o'clock every morning, like religiously. And he busts ass every day. And I use him, even though he's my younger brother, as a role model in reference to what a man is supposed to look like, what a man is supposed to do. You know what I mean? In reference to providing for your family and being there, being accessible, being there for them through whatever. And like, you know, based on my track record, when my son passed away, I know that my immediate family was holding their breath to see which direction I would go based on my past and my past behaviors. Would I cave and give into that weakness or that sadness or depression or whatever label you want to give it? I know they were holding their breath to see which direction I would go. And if I had bet dollars to donuts, I'd bet they'd say I was going to go to the left, that I was going to crash again and do something reckless to remove myself from the equation. I will never, until my last breath, be that guy again. You fuck with my family, that's a whole nother story. But to consciously self-destruct,
Consciously self-destruct. I'm going to use that for now on. Consciously self-destruct, yes.
never. Never. From end to all, I'm here for my family and I'm present in any issues, good, bad, sideways, however it plays out, I'm here. How do I handle it? Depends on the situation.
I happen to know that you're here for more than just family. What are you involved with now? What do you currently have going on?
It is still family though.
That's true.
It is still family. My wife, I, and this other young man, Neil Wittridge, my wife, Letty, my baby. My wife, I, and this young man named Neil Wittridge, we are Diverse People United. It is an organization that we have just set up and is in place. And what we're doing is a lot of activism work. My primary focus is children and young men in general, being there for them and trying to help give voice to those individuals that are still scared, that aren't able to articulate themselves, and some that are, and like I said, are scared to come out and speak up publicly because they might lose their job or they're just still under that cloud of the oppressive mind state, that slave mentality. I don't call, yes, slavery's been over for hundreds of years, but the reality is we still hold on to slave mindsets and are afraid of massa or intimidated to speak up against white people that are racist, segregationists, whatever title they want to hold on to, you know, anything that is anti-black, brown, yellow, you know what I mean? I'm trying to be that voice. I'm trying to be that person that will speak up because even from a young age, I've hated bullies. And that's never gonna change, ever, ever, ever. It's our organization in events that we've been a part of on the North Shore. We're trying to promote a harmonious mindset and lifestyle. The reality is, this is a lifetime commitment. This is not one of those hashtag moments. This is not trending. I can't just turn it off tomorrow. I told you I read that caption. I was trying to be quiet, but my ancestors wouldn't let me. And it's real. All of the books that I was reading when I was a kid, when I'm in the military reading the Black Panther Party, when I'm reading Malcolm X, Huey Newton, and so many others, these voices still alive in me. This spirit has always been there. Like I said, even before I was familiar with these individuals, I've hated bullies since I was a kid, and I'll continue fighting against that type of crap until my last breath.
How did you get from a mind state of, because you know, a lot of people come home and they just live their life. They don't get into trouble anymore. They're productive members of society, paying bills, raising families. But I'm sure they have some of that spirit in that you're talking about. How does it go? How do you make that decision that I'm not just gonna be the best inside the house, but outside the house, I want to set that example.
To be totally honest, I couldn't and I can't explain the process or how this all happened. All I know is I was invited to an event and I spoke from my heart. And I also made
What does speaking from your heart mean?
being dead ass honest.
Okay.
Being just totally and completely honest. And
Was this your first time speaking publicly?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because of a lot of the programs that I was in.
I'm sorry. When you were home.
When I was, since I've been home.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This is these were my first times speaking, the first couple of weeks. And that first week I was real raw because I had gotten away from managing my vocabulary and speaking properly. So I was real raw and probably a little disrespectful to people, you know what I mean? And so my daughter's like, Dad, calm down on the crackers and this, that, and the third.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I gotta be more mindful of what I say when I say it. And so I'm thankful to that program, and I'm also thankful to the efforts that I took while I was still in prison, where like
Really quickly, I just want to say that I love that he just did that, because I do believe so many of us forget to pat ourselves on the back when we accomplish things.
I had to learn how to have a normal conversation and learn how to speak or have a conversation other than all things prison. Again, a conscious effort, because I took a job in staff kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm learning that we ain't talking on the same level.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the same things in any capacity, or in a large capacity, should I say. So I took a job in the staff kitchen so that I could learn how to have a different type of conversation. So I could come home and to be able to just be able to interact with other people, because if I'm turning my head around and my life around up here, but I'm still in prison, so I needed to learn how to have these conversations and learn how to talk to white people. I don't, and the weird reality is I'm half white.
Mm-hmm.
So, but 90% of my interactions were always negative when interacting with white people. So, I had a lot of animosity when I was concerned, and I had to, not so much had to learn, I had to accept the reality that not all of them are bad. You know what I mean? Even though there's a lot of assholes out there, I had to also accept the fact that, that you can't put a blanket on every last one.
Absolutely.
Because again, if we limit ourselves as far as the people we choose to let into our circle, they don't all have to be friends. They can be associates, they can be acquaintances, they can be allies. We're not gonna break bread every day and, I'm gonna invite you to my house, you're gonna invite me to yours, and the whole night, no. But just learn how to expand my vocabulary and my ability to interact with others, so I wasn't deemed antisocial.
Last question. How important was it for you to have mentors, healthy mentors?
It took me a while to even understand what a mentor was, because I have a brother that
And finish it off with the story of how you felt when that brother said that. Yes.
As far as mentors are concerned, there's a couple of individuals that stand out in my head, and they're more than mentors. They're my brothers. I love them like, they came from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
They were huge and instrumental in being brutally honest, being available. I can call them today and they will pick up. If I'm stressing, I ain't got nobody to talk to, and the shit's deep. These are the people I still reach out to every day, and they're instrumental in helping me walk through, talk through whatever stresses that I'm dealing with. And so that in and of itself is something that I was unfamiliar with as well, because when I was ripping and running, there were no dudes in my life. I didn't have dudes in my life. I had a few women in my life, but I don't trust a lot of guys.
Yep.
I don't keep outside of family members, and even those I keep limited. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately. But what do they say? You can't always pick your family either. So, you know, I'm real selective on who I let in and bring close, but there's only there's two individuals, and I will name them, Abdulaziz and Imam Taymullah. Those are the two biggest mentors that I've ever had in my whole life. And, you know, one, we did a lot of time together, and the other, he came into my life because that's the way it was supposed to be. Now, in reference to the mentor word.
I love this, by the way. Yeah, that was touching.
It kind of choked me up. I texted him first thing this morning because I couldn't make an appointment that I had with him. There's this young man that's come to a couple of the events that I've done, and he was going through some personal issues not too long ago.
Really quickly, do you happen to know how he came to know and come to that event?
Well, he heard me from another event prior.
Now, prior to that, was he interested in events?
Yes, he was.
Oh, I love that.
This young man he's on a different page, bro. This young man is so responsible, and you know it's genuine. It's not contrived. It's not made up. This is true, genuine, he's just an awesome kid.
Yep.
That's all I can say about him. He's so responsible. He got a little sister. This dude takes her everywhere. And, you know, he's like the perfect big brother. Because, he's about 18, I think, and she's about maybe 9, 10 years old, maybe 11. But he's very responsible and respectful and deals with her with no aggravation and annoyance. I'm sure she probably gets on his nerves once in a while. But, so, he came to one of the events. He heard me speak. And so he introduced himself, and I told him about another event we were doing. He showed up. And we've been building ever since. So he tells me that he was going through some personal issues. So I was like, listen, if you need to talk, whatever, here's my number. No, we already had the number exchange. I said, just hit me anytime. Whenever you need to holler. If I can't get to you right then and there, I will make a point to get back to you at some point in time. And I even shared the wife's number just in case he needs to leave a message. So he hits me when I can show you the text. It just had me all choked up, bro. He says, yo, God put you in my life for a reason. I look at you as a mentor. I've been called a lot of things, but never a mentor. You know what I mean? And my wife's looking at me like, yo, what's wrong with you? I said, yo, it's weird. It just felt, you know that funny feeling you get when you get all emotional, and it's like, yo, that shit is weird. But at the same time, talking about it, it lets me know that I'm doing the right thing and for the right reason. And that's the biggest part, because like I said, my focus is on the young people. And because this BLM, this movement, this worldwide movement that's going on right now, I don't know if it's gonna sustain that type of energy overseas. But that's not something that I can lose sleep over. Only thing that I can do right now is pour my energy into the movement that I'm involved in, to the people that are gravitating towards me and us in this movement on the North Shore, and hopefully Boston as well. You know what I mean? Because I'll go wherever if I can help in any capacity. And I mean this, in any capacity. If you need somebody to pass out water, I'll be Bobby Boucher. I'll do whatever is necessary to keep this thing moving. And that's on my word, that's on my life, my heart, because my grandson, he's gonna have friends, he's gonna have interactions, he's gonna grow up, and I want it to be a little bit more safer for him.
Absolutely. So I tell people so often, I have to care about my friends' sons and daughters for several reasons. The most selfish reason is one of those kids could kill my kid. But in the grand scheme of things, I want to try to play my role to get it to where I don't want to have that thought.
You don't have to have that.
I don't have to have that thought.
Fear, yeah.
That fear.
Right.
It's a fear. Listen,
My brother.
I'm glad that the first interview didn't work out because this one was way better. Way better.